I glanced over at the clock and saw it was past time to go to lunch. I had been so absorbed in my work that I hadn't noticed everyone else in the cubicle had already gone. I got up and made my way to the stairway that would take me down to the area downstairs where my two best friends worked. "Hey, Gina, Haley, want to get some lunch?" I called as I entered the cubicle. Like me, they were still deep into work and had been abandoned by their coworkers. "I don't know," Haley answered first. "I really need to get this report finished." "When is it due?" Gina asked without looking up. "Because if it isn't due before end of day, then I think we need to get away from the desk for a while." "I know I do." "Fine." Haley tossed her highlighter back onto her desk and rolled her chair back. "Let's just not make it a long lunch. I still have a lot to get finished." "Deal," I answered. We had been friends for several years, and an interesting crowd. I am in my 40s, a big guy over 6 foot tall. Haley is mid-30s, short at about 5 feet 4 inches with long brunette hair and a great figure. Her narrow waist really accentuates her large breasts. Gina is older than I am, not quite 50 yet, tall for a woman at 5 feet 9 inches, and though not as narrow-waisted or large-breasted as Haley, nobody would turn down an opportunity to be with her. Even as pretty as both these women are, it is who they are that makes me want to be with them. They are kind, smart, and compassionate. We have a lot of things in common. Gina decides she wants to take her car for lunch but wants me to drive. We pick a nearby Chinese place and head over. We talk while on the road and through lunch, discussing work, things in the news, things happening in our lives, whatever the topic goes into. Over the last couple years, we've all ended relationships and decided not to start anything new. I like not having the pressure of trying to think for two or decide on something I want to do while trying to consider what someone else wants. The girls felt the same way. We were on the way back discussing work when Haley started griping about her boss. "He just seems so condescending sometimes," she vented from the back seat. "And he is all so pleased about that new sports car he bought. You know, guys with little dicks buy cars like that to compensate." That was the first time I had heard either one of them make any kind of comment like that. "Well, I think I am gonna just go buy me a semi after work," I stated in the deepest voice I could muster. Gina cracked up laughing, even Haley snickered a bit, lightening her mood. "Sorry, Dan," Haley smiled. "I guess I got a bit carried away. I forgot you were there." "I'm not sure you are making things better," I moaned theatrically. "I know you're teasing, but I also know what she means," Gina added. "All so often, when the three of us are together, it just feels like you are one of the girls. You don't come across as a guy." She added that intonation on the word guy that indicated a certain Neanderthal-like definition to the word. I pulled into a space at work, turned off the car and handed Gina her keys. "Well, thanks, I think. I mean, I truly appreciate that you don't think of me that way, but I don't know that I am that comfortable being totally dismissed as a guy." "Trust me, we don't." Haley leaned forward and squeezed my shoulders. "We know and love everything about you, even being the type of guy that you are. That is why we love being with you so much." "Thanks." I reached up and patted one of her hands. "But I'm afraid it is time to get back to the grind." We piled out of the car and marched back into the building. I went up the stairs to my cubicle and immersed myself back into my work. Wednesday rolled around and I was sitting at my desk sorting my thoughts on how to attack a new project when Gina walked in. She was wearing a dark blue skirt that came just above the knee with a light blue short-sleeved blouse. She looked great, even the white sneakers she wore for walking didn't detract from her look. "Haley and I are going to take a walk. Want to come?" she asked. "Sure, I could use the air and the exercise." I stood up to follow her back downstairs. None of the three of us smoked, and there were always people standing outside the main entrance smoking. This was our way of taking a break sometimes. The length of the walk depended on how busy we were or the weather. Today was a long walk. I was in a red polo with tan dockers and brown loafers. Not the best for walking, but I didn't keep walking shoes around. Neither did Haley. She was in a knee-length white flowered skirt and lime green top. She wore sandals as well. We started off out the door through the smokers. I was certain the guys were watching the girls walk away with me, who wouldn't? We left the parking lot and turned right down the sidewalk. We strolled along in silence for the first several yards before Haley opened the conversation. I guess you are wondering why I've called you here today, she started. I was wondering if you could both get Friday off? Sorry for the late notice, but a friend of mine just called and offered me their beach house for the weekend. 3 bedrooms on the beach, but I guess calling it a beach house might have given that part away. Sounds wonderful, Gina immediately answered. I think I can get my work done, and if not, I could probably just bring my laptop and finish from there if I have to. I'd hate to miss out on the opportunity for what might be a couple hours of work. Dan? Haley pressed. Well, yeah, I'd love to, but do you two really want me along? I asked. I mean, having a guy along might, I don't know, maybe you'll feel you can't really just let go and chill and whatever. Well, I was thinking about that before I asked, Haley explained. Last week when we had that talk about forgetting you were a guy and all, well, I think you could just let go and be one of the girls for the weekend. And I don't mean that you aren't a guy, just that I think you aren't so much of a guy that you couldn't spend this weekend with us and we could all be comfortable and have a good time. What do you think, Gina? She pressed on. I don't know if I am saying what I want to get across, but to put it in some crass terms, do you think you could toss your bra aside and hang out in a sweatshirt with Dan sitting in the same room? Pretty sure I can. Gina walked several steps in silence while she considered it. When she finally broke the silence, she posed an idea. If it is a girls' weekend we are going for, then it ought to be just like any other girls' weekend I've done. Ditch the bra while it is just the girls at the house. Nightgowns, wine, chocolates in the evening while we sit around and talk or play games or whatever. Daytime we decide what we are up to and how comfortable we want to be. Dan, can you be one of the girls? I can if you can. I was stunned. I walked along for quite a distance thinking about what they just proposed. A weekend at the beach with just the 3 of us. Being one of the girls? For their part, they let me walk along and parse it all out. I knew there was no way I would say no. I'd go along with just about anything they wanted because I trusted them not to put me in a position that would hurt me. I can do that, I finally answered. Haley actually did a little skip and jump step. Yes, she clapped her hands. This will be a great weekend. Friday came around and I had a bag packed and ready to go. Weather looked like it was going to be great on the coast, so I wasn't bringing much for the 2 days: toiletries, shorts, tees, bathing suit, and a pair of lounging pants for the evening. I checked everything once more and heard a horn. I walked out, locked the door and headed for the car. The trunk popped open and I tossed my bag in the back. There were 2 other suitcases, 1 other smaller bag and a box with several bottles of wine. Looked like a good start to the weekend. As I closed the trunk, Gina flipped me the keys as she went from the driver's seat to the passenger seat. Haley had already moved to the back seat. I saw the wine in the back. Is there any food? I asked as I cranked the engine. We'll stop at the market nearer the place for that, Haley answered. Easier than getting a cooler, ice, all that stuff. Sounds like a plan. I pulled away and headed for the highway. We had about a 2 to 3 hour drive ahead of ourselves, but starting this early we could be eating lunch on the beach. We talked about what we might want to get from the store, what we thought we might do with the rest of the day. Nobody was wanting to discuss more than food for the next day, letting the weekend unfold however it was going to. I was thinking to myself how I wanted this to go well. It was a big step getting away, just the 3 of us. If it went well, perhaps we could do it again. It wasn't anything like dating that I was looking to do. The friendships were just too important to me and I wanted to be able to spend that time with them. I hoped they felt the same. Then Gina said something that brought me out of my revelry. Wait, what did you say? Gina asked, turning to look back at Haley. I said that I'm looking forward to getting into my sweats and having a glass of wine tonight, maybe a fire in the fireplace, she answered. Do you not think a fire would be nice? A fire sounds great, Gina answered. It's the sweats I don't like. We said we'd get into our nightgowns for evening wine. I thought that was just an idle thought, Haley answered. I didn't bring an actual nightgown and I'll bet Dan didn't either. I just shook my head no. Well, I went out and got a nice one for this weekend, she went on, and I expect you both to do the same. 2 exits up there is an outlet mall. Let's stop and I'll bet you can both find something. I felt the blood drain from my face. She actually wanted me to buy a nightgown for myself? I swallowed hard but took the exit when it came up. Gina went on to tell us she had a long nightgown because she thought it might get cool at night, but she brought a sweater because the top of the nightgown was almost backless. I suddenly needed a minute before getting out of the car. I slowed as I entered the parking lot looking for a store that might be appropriate. We spotted a store that looked promising and the 3 of us went in together. Gina led the way to the nightwear, past the pajamas and to a large rack of nightgowns. I'll bet you can find something suitable here. I'm going to browse some other things. Haley started flipping through them. I hesitated. Before she wandered off, Gina moved close to me and whispered, "Just find something you will be comfortable in, it's no big deal. Nobody is watching, and you are with the 2 of us. Oh, and you ought to buy some panties to wear under it. While boobs might look sexy in a nightgown, I don't think Mr. Happy poking out will. At least I'd prefer it." She patted my arm and moved off. I started to object but she wasn't there any longer and at that same moment Haley offered up a choice. "How about this?" She held up a very short nightie that was sheer enough for me to see through the front and back, except the bra part which was sequined. The panty that was attached to the hanger was every bit as sheer as the rest. Was all I could get out. Haley giggled. "That really wasn't fair. I wouldn't wear something like that. Now if the boobs were exposed but my coochie was covered I'd be okay with it." I was sweating now. I reached for the rack and began searching. How am I supposed to know what size I am looking for? I asked Haley. "Well, you're pretty big and looking at these I'd say you should look at the XL or XXL, see how stretchy it is. That should be okay." I went back to searching the rack and found a section on the opposite side of the round with larger sizes. I was flipping past different ones trying to decide what would be appropriate. There were some just as sheer as the one Haley showed me that would maybe fit. I don't think the girls would appreciate that very much. "I think this will do," Haley announced. "Don't take too long deciding, I'd like to get out and start relaxing." I didn't see what she chose and started trying to flip through the hangers faster. I was going back through the second time and grabbed one that seemed to be not too bad. It was long, green and white. The top was just a wide lace collar that left the shoulders bare. As I started toward the counter, I remembered what Gina said. I looked around and saw a table with various styles of panties laid out. The sizes were 4, 5, 6, etc. What happened to L, XL? Or 34, 36, 38? Good grief. I looked over them and saw a pair that really caught my eye. They were green, a bit lighter than the green in the nightgown I held. Lots of lace with a little bow in the center of the waist and fairly sheer backside, but nobody was supposed to see them anyway. The legs looked to be cut high like a string bikini. I tested the waistband and found a size I hope worked. There was another in black that I took as a backup because there was only one in green. The nightgown seemed dense enough that they wouldn't be seen through it. I took my find to the counter. I glanced toward the front door and saw Gina and Haley standing outside it. They weren't going to be of any help with my purchase. I approached the counter and laid the items down. I could feel my face burning. The girl tried to be nonchalant about it, but I could see she knew how embarrassed I was and wasn't doing that good a job hiding a smile that was creeping up. "That'll be $39.47. She looked up at me trying to be professional. I swept my card, scribbled a signature on the pad while she put the things in a bag and thanked her as I took the receipt. I was certain I would hear a giggle as I walked away, but to her credit, I never heard a sound. "Okay," I called out as I left the store, "we can get back on the road." "I'm looking forward to seeing what you picked out," Gina answered as we walked to the car. "Both of you." "Actually, so am I," Haley returned. "I like this sense of mystery." I didn't say anything. What could I say? Yeah, me too. Regardless of how they want to make this a girls' weekend, I am still a guy. I popped the trunk, dropped my bag on top of my luggage. Haley did the same. We climbed in and drove off. Next stop, the market. We walked the aisles picking up stuff for the weekend. Sandwich meats for lunch for 3 days, pasta and sauce for dinner tonight, and some salad to go with it. We discussed options for dinner on Saturday and all decided we wanted something really good to go with the wine. We chose some steaks, fresh vegetables, and potatoes. I wanted chocolate cake for dessert, and they capitulated. Muffins for breakfast, popcorn and cookies found their way into the cart. Milk, coffee, and a few other things, and we were done. Okay, food on me. I pulled out my card again. Haley provided the roof for the weekend, Gina the transport, and I bet all the wine, so this is my part. But the roof didn't cost me anything, Haley protested. At least let me split it with you. Nah, we're good, I assured her. If something else comes up, I'll let you get it. She relented and we checked out. The remaining drive was about 15 minutes. We got to the house. It was amazing. We walked in the front door and the living area and kitchen opened up before us. And at the far end of the room, glass sliders looked out on a porch with a stairway down to a white sand beach with the surf crashing down on it. Let's get the groceries put away, get ourselves settled before we decide what to do next, Gina suggested. Haley and I nodded. I went back to the car and grabbed bags of groceries and hauled them to the kitchen counters. Gina and Haley went about putting things up while I went back for more. A few short trips and I had all the groceries in, the wine sitting on the kitchen island, and all our bags by the hallway that led to the bedrooms. Okay. Haley turned. Master bedroom is end of the hall. It has a king bed and I think Dan should have it since he's so big. Then there is a bedroom on the right, queen bed, and the community bathroom is right off it. On the left is a slightly larger room with 2 twins, but it has the ocean view out a pretty good-sized window. Gina, which would you like, larger bed or better view? Does it matter to you? She asked. Haley shook her head no. Then I'll go with the larger bed. All decided then. Bathroom doesn't have a lot of shelf space, but each room has a vanity, so plan on personal stuff there. Plenty of room for shampoo and all in the tub and toothbrushes on the sink though. Let's get settled. I let the girls head down the hallway ahead of me and then walked into my room for the next couple days. It had lots of room and its own slider out onto the deck. It didn't take long to unpack. I tossed the panties into a drawer with the rest of my underwear and hung the nightgown in the closet. Everything else went into a different drawer except my bathing suit, which I changed into. I thought after lunch I'd want to take a walk on the beach. I arranged my few toiletries on the vanity and took my shampoo and toothbrush into the bathroom. There were several shelves built into the shower wall, so I selected one and put the shampoo there and the toothbrush on the sink. Done. I headed for the kitchen. I was first one done, so I pulled out the bread, mayo, mustard, lettuce, tomato, and some sliced turkey. Anyone want a turkey sandwich? I called out. Sure, came from both rooms. I called out for any modifications. Haley wanted mustard, Gina mayo. Otherwise everything goes. I'm planning a walk on the beach, I called out as I assembled the sandwiches. Already have my bathing suit on. I heard 2 doors close a few seconds later, which told me they were changing as well. Lunch is up, I yelled as I grabbed my sandwich and a glass of water. I headed out the slider to the deck. There were several chairs and a glider to choose from. I grabbed the first chair, a small table between it and the next chair got my plate and glass. At first, I just sat there staring out at the waves as they rolled in. I took in deep breaths of the sea air. Just as I picked up my sandwich, I heard someone coming out the door. Gina walked out. She had on a black one-piece and a white cover-up that was translucent. Thanks for the sandwich. She walked in front of me to the chair that shared the little table. My pleasure, I replied and took a bite. Don't get too far ahead of me, Haley called as she came out. I don't want you walking off and leaving me behind because I'm still eating. I couldn't help but stare for a few moments as she walked by me taking a seat on the glider. She had on a red string bikini bottom with a blue and white top. There wasn't a lot to it, but it covered everything that needed to be covered. She also had a white scarf tied around her waist, knotted on her hip, which covered just a little more but really drew attention to how little there really was. I suddenly realized I had stopped chewing my food and quickly swallowed. "We wouldn't dream of leaving you behind. All together this weekend, no one left behind." I tried to sound as though I hadn't noticed anything. I didn't dare look at Gina to see what her reaction might have been. We finished eating and I took the dishes back into the sink while the girls walked down toward the water. I quickly caught up to them and we proceeded to stroll along beach, letting the water wash up around our bare feet. Haley was closest to the water. I was in the middle with Gina to the other side. I started out talking about how beautiful the weather, the ocean, the place, how grateful I was to be invited along. We talked more about a lot of things and finally got back to the house a couple hours later. We went inside, left the slider open to the sounds of the surf, and chilled in the living room. We had each brought books to read and we did that until it was time to think about dinner. "I am going to go put some clothes on," Gina announced. "I don't feel right eating dinner in a bathing suit." "Sounds like a plan, I'll do the same." I closed my book and got up. "Well, I'm not going to be the only one running around half naked," Haley added as she got up. "Half?" I couldn't resist. "I didn't hear anyone complaining," she countered. "Would it have mattered?" I asked with a smile. "Not likely." She pushed past me and up the hall. A few minutes later we were back in the kitchen preparing dinner. I was back in shorts and a tee, Haley similar but tighter shorts. Gina was in a sleeveless blouse and maxi skirt. It didn't take long to get the pasta, salad, and bread ready. The first bottle of wine got opened and we sat down to dinner. It still amazes me that we can spend so much time together and find things to talk about. There are silences, but even those aren't awkward. I hope they feel the same. That was great. I leaned back and drained my wine glass. "I am going to open another bottle unless there are any objections." "I think you should wait a few minutes," Gina put in. "I think I am ready to truly relax." Nightgown time. I say we stack the dishes in the sink, go change and then play a backgammon tournament. First one to last 3 games does the dishes. I'm game, Haley immediately approved. Who am I to object? I looked at my glass to see if there was another drop I could coerce into my mouth. "Moment of truth for you." Gina smiled. "It'll be fun, I'm sure you'll like it." Once again, we paraded down the hall with the girls dividing off to the left and right as I proceeded straight into my room. I closed the door and stripped off my clothes. I opened the drawer and held up the green lacy panty, examining what I was about to put on. What drove me to pick these? And why didn't I just grab some plain white cotton ones that would have done the job just as well? Too late now. I stepped into them and slid them up my legs. They were just a little tight, but I felt that might be for the best. I looked at myself in the mirror and they certainly didn't hide anything. I twisted to look at my behind and the back wasn't that much better. Matter of fact, without the lace it seemed it was even more transparent than the front. I was a bit concerned with how excited I was. I went to the closet and removed the nightgown from its hanger. It was hard to tell the front from the back, but I found a label and pulled it over my head. A little lace on my shoulder, no sleeves, not much detail at all. I looked to the mirror again. It felt like it was made of cotton, a little stiff. It reached almost to my ankles and it wasn't in the least transparent, so I didn't need to worry about my panties showing through. I swallowed hard, about to leave my room. I knew how I had gotten into this, now I just wondered why. I walked back to the living room feeling the nightgown slide around my legs. It would snap tight if I tried to take too long a step. I was the first to arrive. I grabbed the backgammon game and set it up on the table. Gina was the first to come out. She had a floor-length white gown. It shimmered as she walked. It looked like it could have been silk. It just flowed around her as she came in. Her breasts jiggled with each step and her nipple dimpled the fabric. I became very aware of the lace in my panties. As she was taking her seat at the table, Haley emerged wearing a purple nightshirt. It also looked to be silky, but I knew from looking at the rack that we shopped together that it was something cheaper. That didn't take away from how great it looked on her. It was short, and there were slits up the side that almost reached her hip. Her breasts bounced nicely with each step she took, and her nipples also left their mark. I glanced down and saw that indeed there were 2 small bumps in my nightgown as well. I was glad I was already sitting, as there would certainly be 3 bumps. That is awfully short, Gina commented as Haley came to the table. Are you wearing any underwear? Or might there be a show later? Of course I am. Haley turned and pulled the top of the slit up a little, exposing a strip of black material that ran just over her hip. Do you want to see more? No, that's quite all right. I just wanted to be prepared to pick up Dan's jaw later, she snickered. Well, this was your idea, Haley commented. Are you wearing any? My nightgown is long enough, was all Gina would say. I am, I answered, and both girls looked at me and both started laughing. Good to know, Gina giggled. Okay, 2 high rollers play each other first. Winner plays whoever is waiting. First one out gets a choice. Do the dishes or has to be the wine wench the rest of the evening. Haley and I both nodded our agreement, and we were off. After another bottle of wine gone, we had all lost twice, and Haley and I were playing. She had me beat, but I rolled doubles, leaving me 1 man on the board. Next roll I was definitely off. She needed at least a 3 and 2. Instead, she got a 5 and 1, stranding her last man. She chose to be wine wench and went to open another bottle. Gina and I played to see who would do the dishes. It was a brutal game, with each of us sending men to the rail and blocking their return, but eventually we got down to the end. This time it was my turn to hit or lose. I rolled a 6 and 4, which got my last 2 off, and Gina was off to do the dishes. Haley poured Gina a glass and set it near the sink. She refilled my glass and her own, and we went to the living room to sit. There weren't too many dishes, so Gina wouldn't be long. It was the first look it had gotten at the back of the nightgown Gina was wearing. There was almost nothing except a few white strings on her back. The gown dipped to just above her butt, which the gown clung to, saying she had opted not to wear panties. When she finished, we opted to watch a movie. Haley got to make some popcorn as part of her duties and poured more wine. Gina poked around and found a DVD of Under the Tuscan Sun to watch. She also found a blanket since it was getting cool. We'd left the slider open and didn't want to close it yet. Haley returned with the popcorn, and we all settled down together on the couch under the blanket. When the movie ended, we all decided it was a good way to end the day. I folded the blanket and put it and the movie back where it belonged. Haley rinsed out the popcorn bowl. What time do we want to start the morning? I asked. Whenever we want to, Haley answered. We have muffins and coffee. Nobody has to do anything to make breakfast. I say start the day whenever you want to. I'm fine with that, Gina agreed. Good night. Night. Haley turned away. I shuffled into my room. I looked over at the slider, trying to decide whether I wanted the curtains pulled or not. Decided the sun would be on the opposite side, so waking to the view would be nice. I crawled into bed. I quickly crawled back out of the bed as the nightgown immediately seemed to wrap itself around me and slide up, and God knew what else. I shook it back down and pulled the covers back, sat on the edge of the bed and swung my legs and pulling the covers back over me. I felt good. I lay there watching the moon reflect off the water for a little while, tired but not sleepy yet. Then I heard a noise, probably one of the girls heading for the bathroom. Another noise, this time my door was being opened. Dan? Haley whispered. Yeah, I whispered back. You still awake? She came further into the room, pushing the door closed behind her. It certainly sounds like it, I answered. Funny. She came to the side of the bed. Do you mind talking a little more? I thought I was tired, but I can't sleep. Sure, I'm in the same boat, just watching the light on the water. I started to move to sit up, but she pulled back the covers and slipped inside. She quickly moved to my side and laid her head on my shoulder and arm across my stomach. Thanks. Sure. I wasn't sure what to do next. I adjusted my pillow to get a bit more comfortable and wrapped my arm around her. You mind if I ask you something? She started. Have you ever thought about dating one of us? Oh, I started and searched for the best way to answer. Well, yes, I guess. Thing is, I would hate to be in a position where I hurt someone's feelings because I asked the other out. Or if I did start seeing one of you and it didn't work out, I might lose one of my best friends. Sometimes you have to take chances to find happiness, she told me. I love you. She stopped and giggled. Your heart just started pounding really hard. Let me finish before you get too excited. I would do anything for you. I think we could be okay together, but I'm not sure. What I am sure of is Gina likes you. And I am pretty sure she would love for you to ask her out. Really? I was surprised at the turn this had taken. Did you see her nightgown? She said before that she got this just for this weekend, she pointed out. She certainly didn't buy it to impress me. But why was she so insistent that I wear a nightgown? I asked. I'm not sure about that. She moved to look at my face and her arm slipped lower, bumping into me. Oops, sorry. She pulled her arm back up. I was a bit embarrassed but couldn't think of anything to say. Do you mind if I? She trailed off as her hand slipped lower again. Wait, I stammered. She was telling me about Gina and was now going to do something. I felt her hand slide along my hip and trace the panty I was wearing but stayed away from the center. These feel nice and sexy, she purred. I guess you really bought into this weekend. Can I see? I don't think that would be a great idea, I stammered. If you want to look, there is an extra pair in the dresser. Only difference is these are green and those are black. Another noise. The door eased open. Dan? Yeah, I answered, not bothering to whisper. I was having trouble getting to sleep. Gina stepped into the room. There is a lot of that going around, I replied. Hey girl, Haley called back. Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't realize. She started back out the door. Gina! Stop! Haley called. We're just talking, come on in, join us. Seriously? She asked, coming in. Yeah, but I have a favor to ask first, Haley giggled. Look in that drawer and pull out the black panties. What? She turned and opened the drawer. Haley turned away and turned on a bedside lamp. Gina held up the panties, stretching them between her fingers. My, these are something. He's wearing the same ones, only green under his nightgown, Haley told her. I wondered if he wore the nightgown to bed or stripped it off as soon as he came in here. Gina put the panty back and closed the drawer. He was wearing it when I came in. I'm glad I did. I didn't realize I'd be entertaining so much company tonight. Haley turned the lamp off again. Dan, slide over here. Gina, crawl in and snuggle up. I watched as Gina pulled the covers back and slid in much the same way I had to keep my nightgown from strangling me. She tossed the covers back over her and moved to my side. Now I had both girls' heads on my shoulders. I felt Gina feel down along my hip. You really are wearing the same thing, she spoke. I wanted to see what they looked like, Haley snickered. Glad you came in, he didn't want to show me and now I see why, and besides I was all warm and comfortable. So how did you know he was wearing them? Gina asked. Accidentally let my arm slip to low and felt them, Haley explained. You can feel the lace through the nightgown, and, well, be careful how far you go. I was an accident. I'll take your word for it. So, what were you two talking about? Gina slipped her arm over my stomach under Haley's, but careful to keep it high enough above the waistband of the panties. Actually, your nightgown, Haley answered. That is a pretty nice nightgown. You look really sexy in it. Oh, thanks, I saw it while shopping and thought it was time I treated myself. Well, both your nightgowns look amazing on you, I told them and gave them each a little squeeze. I'm afraid the one I ended up getting makes me look like an old housewife from the 60s with 6 kids running around. Well, how many nightgowns have you bought before? Gina asked. None, I confessed. So, it was a first try, for a first girls' weekend, and I think you did fine, Gina answered. I think the fact you did it at all is pretty amazing, Haley added. If you had refused to take part, one think it would have put a damper on the whole weekend. I agree, Gina added. Would you tell me, as a little boy, did you ever do anything like dressing up? Go as a girl on Halloween? Sneak into your mom's clothes? Actually, no, I told them. I've never done anything like that, but... You hear his heart start beating faster? Haley broke in. This ought to be a good one. Shoo, Gina admonished her. Dan, go on. Well, I've had dreams. I've heard of people who dream about being naked in public. Well, I've never had one of those dreams. But I remember one where I was sitting in school in junior high. I was at the back of the class and my dad walked into the door at the front of the class. I looked down and I had on a black miniskirt. I knew I couldn't let him see me like that, so I ran out the back door into the hallway. I don't remember what happened next. They weren't all bad. A couple, I was wearing a dress and just walking along or talking with people like it was the most natural thing in the world. Interesting. Gina snuggled a bit closer. I wonder if there is some little woman deep inside that just wants to get out and play. Maybe that is why we sometimes forget that you are a guy. We can sense that feminine part of you and welcome it as part of us. I thought about what she said. I wondered how I would deal with that. How to prove it. Or is it just something that is a part of me that I ignore and it is just there in some things I do? Today was a lot of fun, Haley suddenly spoke up. First the impromptu shopping trip, then the what kind of bathing suit will they wear, by the way, I'm glad you aren't one of those Speedo guys, and finally the what nightgown. Add in all the rest of the things we've done and it was a hell of a day. Certainly was, Gina agreed. I have an idea, it might be a little pricey so feel free to shoot it down if you want, or if you just don't want to do it, Haley told us. How about we do a formal dinner tomorrow night? We have the makings for it, just need the clothes. There is a great little town not far from here, cute little area with lots of shops. I bet we could find some fine dresses for dinner. Black cocktail dress. Isn't that supposed to be black tie? I asked. Not tomorrow night, Haley came back. Tomorrow we all buy a black dress for dinner. You've bought a nightgown, Gina answered. This will be a lot tougher because you will really need to try it on. Otherwise we could be going back and forth all day. Do you both really want me to wear a black dress to dinner tomorrow night? I asked. Is your heart beating harder because it excites you or scares you? Haley asked. I felt her jerk her arm, pushing Gina's arm lower, causing her to bump me. Oh. Gina pulled her arm back up. Well, certainly excited, maybe scared too? Yeah, definitely scared too. I sighed. Wearing this nightgown is one thing. It is just the two of you and I don't think you'd tell anyone about this. A dress, and I'll have to try it on in a store? I'm not sure. Look, we'll be sure the place is okay, Haley answered. And there shouldn't be anyone around that know any of us, Gina added. Please try. I'm not certain why I want this, but I really do. I thought about it for a while. If that is what you both want to do, then maybe I can try. And maybe I'll find out just what those dreams mean if I wear a dress in real life, I relented. I think this will be fun. Haley squeezed me. I expected both of them to get up and head back to their beds at that point, but a few moments later I heard Haley's breathing grow deeper. Gina's body went lax beside me and I knew she was asleep as well. I resigned myself that this was how it would be and tried to relax. It didn't take long before darkness overcame me. I woke the next morning and opened my eyes to a mass of blonde hair. I had rolled to my side and was spooning Gina. I looked back over my shoulder and Haley was still there sleeping on her stomach. First thought I had was how can a woman with big boobs sleep comfortably on her stomach? Next thought was that I needed to get to the bathroom. I carefully rolled away from Gina and began trying to work my way back from under the covers without waking the girls. Once I got almost out, I pulled my knees up and got my legs out from under the covers. My nightgown slid up to the tops of my thighs and I quickly pushed it back down. I decided the best way off the bed was to crawl off the bottom, so I made my way down and awkwardly off. I closed the door behind me and went into the bathroom. I lifted my nightgown, dropped my panties and took a seat. While I waited for my bladder to drain, I decided to brush my teeth. I'd shower later after a dip in the ocean. I flushed, then brushed my teeth and headed for the kitchen. I grabbed a chocolate chip muffin, a glass of milk and started a pot of coffee for when the girls got up. I shuffled my way out onto the deck and sat enjoying the view and my breakfast. A little bit later Gina emerged holding a cup of coffee. She had put a sweater on over her nightgown. "Good morning," I offered. "Good morning." She moved to the other chair. "Thanks for making the coffee. Been up long?" "Not really." Brushed my teeth, put the coffee on and ate a muffin which I just finished. "How did you get out of bed without waking either of us? And why didn't you wake me?" "We agreed we'd each start the day when we were ready to," I explained. "Of course, that was before we all decided to sleep in my bed. You really didn't get much of a choice, but I'm glad we did. I was cozy all night." She pulled her legs up tucking her nightgown around them. "I crawled out. I'm glad you slept through it. I needed to get to the bathroom pretty quick after all the wine last night. I woke up about 4 o'clock and had to make the trip. I thought about going back to my own bed but only for half a second. I came back in, crawled into bed and you immediately wrapped your arm around me. I was back to sleep in seconds." I slept like the dead, Haley spoke as she came onto the deck, a steaming cup of coffee in her hand as well. She had put on some sweatpants under her nightshirt. "Except once you grabbed my boob. I pushed your hand away and you rolled over to Gina." "Oh, sorry, I didn't know." I felt embarrassed. "I know, just one of those things." Haley sat, didn't even really try to feel me up, just kinda held it. "I didn't get a feel or a grab, just a hug," Gina huffed. "You don't like my boobs?" "What?" No, I mean, yes, but, well, I didn't." I stumbled. Both girls started giggling, enjoying my discomfort. "Don't worry about it," Haley joked. "You're so cute when you get flustered." "Fine, tease me all you like." I drained my glass. "I am going for a swim." "It is probably pretty cold out there," Gina pointed out. "Yeah, but we got a busy afternoon planned, so better now than never." I started for the door. "So, you're still going to do it?" Haley squeaked. I said I would. I went and changed. I walked back through in just my bathing suit and a towel around my neck. I dropped the towel on the sand above the water line and walking into the surf. I had to stop pretty quick because the water was awful cold, but I pressed on. Once the waves started hitting me, all bets were off and I dove in. The shock almost knocked the breath from me. I surfaced, tried to regulate my breathing, and tread water while looking back at the girls on the porch. They were chatting away and I wondered if they were talking about me. I swam a few yards back and forth, body surfed a few waves, but it didn't take long before I was exhausted. I dragged myself out of the water and toweled off as I trudged up to the house. "Was that fun?" "Looked like you were having a good time," Gina asked. "Yeah, but I am so out of shape I can barely walk now," I huffed as I climbed the stairs. "We think you need to shave," Haley opined. "I will, right after I shower," I answered. "No, we mean shave everything," Haley explained. I just stared. "It'll give you better options on your dress if you aren't worried about hair being exposed," Gina added. "Plus, I think you'll like how the clothes feel when you don't have all that hair." "If you'd like some help I can help you," Haley offered. "You can wear your bathing suit while we do it." "How tough can it be?" "I shave my face every day," I explained. "First time, might like someone to be sure you got everything," Haley explained. "Okay, well, I might as well get started then. Need the shower now anyway and I don't want to take these off and put them on again," I relented. "I can't believe I am saying this, but, do you want to come watch me shower?" Both girls laughed and Haley got up and followed me to the bathroom. I turned the shower on and waited for the water to warm up. At last I climbed in and let the water warm my body. It felt strange being in my bathing suit, but even stranger having Haley sitting on the toilet lid watching me. I started soaping myself up and Haley suddenly left the room. She returned holding a razor. Nice easy strokes, new razor, be careful. She handed it to me and took a seat. I decided to start at the bottom and work my way up. Haley patiently watched as I shaved my legs, then removed the hair on my stomach and chest. Pits, she offered. Really? Definitely. I lifted my arm and proceeded to carefully remove the hair. Turn around. She took the razor. I felt her scraping a few spots on my back. That ought to do it. You can do your face as you usually do. Now, I'll leave you so you can take those shorts off and clean the rest. Your choice on the pubes. Natural, trimmed or bald. She handed me back the razor and left. I pulled the chilly shorts off and left them in the tub since they were still drenched. Then I finished cleaning the hair from the tops of my thighs. I looked at the patch of hair that remained and tried to decide what I would do. I started trimming the edges down, no reason to have that much hair, but then I decided I'd gotten too much and the patch I'd left wasn't looking right, so it went too. I looked at myself, bare as a newborn. I turned off the water, left the razor leaning against a shampoo bottle, dried off and went to my room to get the rest of things I'd need. While in there I grabbed my clothes for the day, shorts and tee like before. But I tossed my underwear back in the drawer and grabbed the black panties. If I was going to be trying on dresses, I might as well have the right underwear. I finished and went back to the deck. We are taking bets. Haley immediately spoke. Bare, trimmed or natural? I looked at them both and just gaped. How can you just ask me about that? I never would have asked you. Girls' weekend, Gina answered. You'd be surprised what women talk about when men aren't around. And before you ask, natural. Bare, Haley added. Is that what you are betting or what I've done? I asked. That is what we are, Gina answered. So? Bare, I mumbled. Ha! I win, Haley hooted. I didn't think you would go that far. I was betting trim, Gina answered. I started to just trim, but it didn't look right when I finished, so I decided it all had to go, I explained. And these lace undies, I find I pull the hair sometimes, so this might be better. These? Are you wearing them now? Haley sat up. Yeah, I owned up. Thought it might be best if I were trying on dresses to be wearing the right underwear. That is so great, she grinned. Gina nodded. Okay, I am going to take my shower and dress. Gina got up. Then if Haley gets going we can have some lunch and go do some shopping. I went in and grabbed my book, then went back to the porch to read. I have to admit, I did like the feeling of not getting those hairs pulled. We got out of the car and began strolling along the street, checking the windows of the shops. Haley had opted to wear knee-length yoga pants with a long tee. Gina once again chose a skirt and top. This skirt was a loose mini. We walked a couple blocks when we spotted a store with several mannequins in formal dresses. We went in. Good afternoon. A saleslady approached us immediately. I'm Sheila, and I'd love to be able to help you today. We're looking for a cocktail dress for tonight's dinner, Gina answered while glancing over some dresses near her. Black for sure, the rest is up for discussion. I'm certain I can help you ladies find something suitable that you'll fall in love with. She gave her best sales smile. Oh, you misunderstand, Haley spoke up. We are all looking for a dress. Will that be a problem? At first Sheila's eyebrows drew together as though she were trying to reason out a difficult problem, then her eyes opened after just a second. Of course not. She looked me over. You are pretty big, and the selection might be a bit restricted, but I'm certain we can find something you'll like. Wonderful. Gina smiled. Now I have one more request that I didn't mention before. I'd like you two to leave while I get my dress. I want surprises at dinner tonight. Give me the keys so I can put my dress in the car when I am done. Oh, sure. I was all prepared to start looking, and now I was taking a reprieve. I wasn't sure I wanted more time to consider my position, but I walked back to the front door and held it open for Haley, and we walked out. We strolled along the sidewalk looking in different windows, commenting on things. About an hour later Gina caught up to us and sent Haley back to the dress shop. We walked and talked. I stayed away from the topic of dresses, though my thoughts wandered toward what sort of dress she might have chosen, what it might feel like strolling along with me, feeling a light breeze causing her skirt to wave about a bit. Finally, Haley returned with a big smile and handed me the keys. I walked back to the dress shop and walked in like it was the most natural thing for me to be there, at least externally. Inside I was shaking like a leaf. I realized that now that Sheila had made 2 sales, she might be less accepting to my shopping for a dress. "Ah, Dan, welcome back." Sheila came from a room off the side. "I've been selecting a few dresses and placed them in the dressing room for you. Why don't you go in and give one a try, then we'll take a look and see how it fits and how close the sizes are." "Thanks," was all I could muster, and I walked back to the dressing room. There was a large area with a mirror and several cubbies with a curtain that could be pulled. One had several black dresses hanging in it, so I went in and pulled the curtain back. I pulled my clothes off, except my panties, and took the first dress and slipped it over my head. It was long, about mid-calf and spread out wide. The sleeves were long and all lace, as was most of the top. I tried to zip the back but was only able to get it part of the way up. I peeked out the curtain. "Something I can help you with?" Sheila asked. "I can't zip it up," I answered. "Of course, step on out here and let's get a look. I'll help you with the zipper." I took a breath and left the safety of my cubby. "Oh, very nice, this is one of my favorite dresses," Sheila went on as she stepped behind me and ran the zipper up, sealing me in. "Come over to the mirror. I think the skirt is just fabulous, so layered and full, and all the sheer lace in the top is just so sexy." I looked at myself and actually liked what I saw and how I felt. But something wasn't the way I expected, I guess. I knew I needed to try on something else. "Have you shopped for dresses before?" Sheila asked. "No, this is definitely a first for me," I answered and turned to look at the back of the dress in the mirror. I did notice that without hair my legs looked pretty good in this dress. "Could you undo the zipper? I'd like to look at something else." "Of course." Sheila pulled the zipper to the bottom and I realized he had to have gotten a peek at the top of my panties. She didn't make any comment. "Your friends seem like nice ladies. They told me this was a first time for you and explained how this came about. That is pretty brave of you to allow yourself to abandon the constricts of being male." I closed the curtain and began getting out of the dress. I didn't think much about it when it started. It was supposed to be just sitting around like a girl's getaway. Then it was all nightgowns. Next thing I know, I'm trying on dresses. "Did they also tell you about my dreams?" I got into the next dress, also a full skirt but short. The top was sleeveless but all lacy. Again, I got the zipper started and stepped out. "No, they didn't tell me much more than how you got here. I could tell they were being careful of some details." She tried to run the zipper up, but it wouldn't go. "I'm afraid the top on this one doesn't fit. Do you want to tell me about the dreams?" She ran the zipper back down, but not all the way. I stepped back in and closed the curtain. "I've just had a lot of dreams where I am wearing dresses. Some I feel embarrassed, some I feel like I belong," I explained as I swapped into the next dress. This dress was short as well, with multiple sheer layers. The top had a lace overlay and a V-front, the sleeves were short lace. Again, I needed zipper help and stepped out. Sheila ran the zipper up. "This looks very nice on you. Your legs are great for this short skirt. Because of your height it is a little shorter on you, but not too short. Could I ask if you are planning on wearing a bra with it?" I really hadn't planned on it, I explained and stared at my breastbone visible in the opening of the dress. I was really glad the girls had me shave. "Would you object to it?" Sheila asked. Well, I guess I could see what it looks like if you think I should." I traced lace along the opening. "Okay, I'll be right back." Sheila hurried out. I stood at the mirror and looked at myself twisting this way and that. I actually liked the feel of this dress. It seemed to speak to me and say, "I was made for you. I have a lingerie set that you might like." Sheila dropped some things and held up a black bra. "Ready?" I nodded and turned so she could unzip the dress. I peeled the top down and let her slip the bra up my arms and fastened it. In the mirror, I saw the black lacy cups and straps that ran up over my shoulders. Now, before we pull the dress back up, I have some breast forms. They may be too much for what you are looking for, and that's fine. You can always find something to stuff the bra with if you don't want them, but these should be enough to give you a little form and really fill the top of the dress out. She slipped them into the cups of the bra, and I felt the weight of them in those straps. She helped get the top of the dress back on and zipped me back up. "Oh, my," I gaped. "This is my dress." I could see Sheila's smile behind me. "You look wonderful." Now, I noticed you already have a good panty for that dress. It doesn't add any unnecessary lines, but the set I have includes the bra, a panty, a garter belt and black stockings with a back seam. Now the evenings are pretty cool, so the stockings won't be too warm, but it is up to you. Your legs look wonderful, Bear. Look, I know you want to make the sale, I sighed, but I think below the shoulders I do look pretty good. Beyond that, well, listen to me. Sheila turned me and stared me in the eyes. You look great. I mean it. I don't just say things. I can be tactful when a customer selects something that I just don't believe works on their body, but it is what they want. I won't blow smoke up your skirt. What I see is a man who cares very much for his friends, is finding a strong feminine part of himself that his friends have felt for a while, and whether they were aware they were doing it or not, they are bringing it out into the open. Now it is up to you as to what you want to do with it. Most men see any display of femininity as a weakness, but believe me, there isn't anything stronger than a woman. Maybe not physical strength all the time, but in every other way. After all, we have to put up with a lot on men's shit. We both started laughing, and without thinking about it, I hugged her. I was happy to feel that she hugged me back. She unzipped my dress and undid my bra. I changed back into my street clothes, and we took all my things to the checkout. I was thrilled, and that surprised me. Are you planning on wearing shoes? A high heel will really make your legs look long in that short dress, and if you decide to go with the stockings, then I think you'll look amazing. Where would I find shoes for my feet? I wear a size 11 men's shoe. There is a shoe store a few blocks from here. They stock larger shoes. You aren't the only man who has shopped for heels. Sheila grinned again. When you try them on, keep in mind that if they are a little tight, they will fit a little better if you wear the stockings. Dan, it has been a real pleasure serving you. I hope you have a wonderful evening. Thank you. Oh, how am I supposed to zip that dress by myself? I really don't want to ask one of the girls to do it, at least not this first time. It would take away from the surprise of shopping part. Sheila thought a moment and then grabbed a pair of shoelaces from a drawer under the counter. There is a hole in the zipper. Slip this in and pull the other end up behind your head. You should be able to pull the zipper up the same way surfers do with their wetsuits. That'll work. Thanks again. I picked up my packages and left the shop. I walked to the car and carefully added my things to those already in the trunk, arranging them in an attempt not to wrinkle any of the dresses. I resisted looking in either of the other dress bags. I closed it up and went looking for the girls. Hey! I called as I approached. Find a dress? Gina asked like it was normal thing that I would be looking for. I couldn't help looking around to see if anyone was looking at me. Then I blew it off. Yes, and I love it. I hope you are just happy with your choices. Wow, I didn't expect this much exuberance, Haley answered. You must have found the dress. I think I did, I grinned. And Sheila and I had a great talk. Really made me feel good. She asked me to send her a picture from tonight if everyone was okay with it, Gina told us. I will be, I spoke right up. I mean, she has already seen me in my dress. I suspect she was helping you the same way. Now, I think I want to find a shoe store she mentioned. She felt I needed shoes to go with the dress. We were discussing that too, Gina answered. I didn't bring dress shoes and neither did Haley. We thought we might all go without, but if you think you want to try, I am game. Actually, I'd like to get the shoes too, Haley countered. Just gives another option. Let's find the shoe store. Gina waved up the sidewalk. The store actually had a pair of sandals with a 3-inch heel that fit me. After trying them on, I knew I would be wearing the stockings. The girls also found some things they liked. We drove back to the house. Since it was late afternoon, the decision was made to change for dinner immediately. Everyone wanted more than just an hour in their dress. I helped bring in boxes and bags, not knowing what was in each of them, but looked forward to the grand unveiling. I closed my door and unpacked everything. I checked my dress over carefully to be sure it wasn't wrinkled, but it looked like it survived the trip. I clipped off the tags and hung it in the closet. I sorted through the rest, clipped any remaining tags, and laid everything out on the bed. I realized that Haley must have made the bed up when she got up and smiled. Sheila had put the panties in the bag, even though I already had some since it was part of the set. I examined them and decided I would try them. But first I needed to put on my bra. I tried to put it on the way it would seem, but I couldn't get the ends to meet. I slipped it from my shoulders and managed to fasten it around my waist, then pulled it back into place. I went with the breast forms. They looked too good before, and I didn't want to take a chance using toilet paper or paper towels. This was better. I peeled off my panties, probably a good thing I had these new ones. Walking around had gotten these a bit damp. It would be nice to wear something fresh. The new ones were a bit less material, black with lace over the front, an AV of lace with no backing in most of it. The back was enough to cover the middle of my butt. 3 strips connected the front and back. Next, I attached the garter belt around my waist. The garters dangled down to the tops of my thighs. I thought about it for a minute and decided to take off my panties. I pulled the stockings from the package and examined them, finding the seam and orienting it so it would go up the back of my leg. I pulled the first one on my foot and struggled trying to get it all on and the seam straight, but after an effort I was able to get it on and worked to get the garter attached front and back. I remembered a commercial of a woman pulling on stockings, so the next one I pulled the stocking onto my fingers, keeping the seam bunched on one side. I slipped my toes into it and slowly pulled the stocking onto my foot and up my leg. It went much easier and I connected the garters. I put my panties back on and decided that I liked it much better. Less trouble if I needed to pull my panties off, and the garters stayed in place. I checked the seam in the mirror and picked at it in a few places to get it straight. Time for my dress. I found the shoelace and fed it through the zipper, then tied it off with a slip knot so it wouldn't come out until I was ready for it to. I pulled on my dress, fed the shoelace up over my shoulder, and pulled while holding the base of the zipper. It flowed up the dress to the top. I reached behind my head and pulled the lace, undoing the knot, and removed it from the zipper. I went back to the bed and proceeded to put on my shoes. They were more comfortable with the stocking on. I stood and wobbled just a little. A couple steps over to the mirror and I checked myself out. I loved how I looked. I could hardly wait to show Haley and Gina. I turned and opened my door. Both the other doors were still closed. I was disappointed, but then I knew they would be doing more to get ready. All I had to do was change clothes. I walked into the kitchen, set out 3 wine glasses, opened a bottle of wine and poured them. I sipped mine as I pulled the steaks from the refrigerator so they could come up to temp for cooking, and decided to take a walk out on the patio. The wind was picking up a little and I held my skirt while I sipped my wine. Felt a bit too windy, so I went back inside. I was getting antsy. I wanted to see the girls and I wanted them to see me. Haley was the first to come out. She wore a strapless dress with a full short skirt that looked fluffy with layers upon layers. She was also wearing black hose, though they didn't have a seam. A black high-heel sandal, different than mine, completed her outfit. She went straight to her wine and turned to face me. She looked beautiful. On top of the gorgeous dress, she had done her hair and makeup. "Wow," was the first thing she said. "I see Sheila got you into hose too. Stockings or pantyhose?" "Stockings." I turned so she could see seams. "You?" "Stockings," she confirmed. This dress didn't have enough support for my boobs, so she suggested a bustier. It had garters, so I decided to go with stockings too. "But you have boobs. Are you wearing a bra?" She came over and started feeling along my ribs where the bra was. Then she grabbed one of my boobs. Fair, I guess, since she said I grabbed one of hers in my sleep. These aren't tissue or anything, they feel pretty good. Yeah, Sheila thought the dress might look better with breasts and had me try a bra and breast forms. I felt it looked good before, but once I saw it this way, I had to get everything. Sheila knows her business. You both look great, Gina spoke. We turned, not having heard her come into the room. Oh my, I whispered. She stood there in a long black dress. It fit her tight all the way down. The top was lace just over the edge of her shoulders. She took a step toward us and the front of the dress opened in a slit that went high up her thigh. She was not wearing stockings. She had also done a great job on hair and makeup. I'll take that as a positive. Gina picked up her wine and came to join us. I have to say, we make a good-looking trio if I do say so myself. I thought I looked good, I answered, but you two put me to shame. Not at all, Haley objected. I think with a little makeup you could be really pretty. I bet that even though your hair is short we could figure something out. Gina, what do you think? Willing to try? Oh, absolutely, Gina smiled. We can do something to make you feel like you did when you first put on that dress. Gina left the room and came back with a small case. She opened it and it was filled with all sorts of things I couldn't identify. They discussed what they wanted to do, what colors they wanted, how to do things. Gina went to work putting some stuff all over my face, then Haley started working on my eyes, adding shadow and extending my lashes. Gina was doing something else. I couldn't keep track of what they were doing until Gina started putting color on my lips with a little paintbrush. Okay. Gina sat back. That's it for the face. That is incredible. Haley stared at me. Now, what can we do with his hair? What about we gel it down, maybe a little curl at the temple, sort of a 1940s throwback look? Gina suggested. Yeah, that can work, Haley agreed. I'll start on that, but I think you need to darken his lip gloss a bit for this. Oh, yeah, you're right, Gina agreed. Okay, Dan, hold still a little longer. They went to work and didn't take long to finish. Come on, let's go see. Gina took my hand and led me back to my bedroom where the largest mirror was. She put me in front of the mirror and I stared. I had long dark lashes and dark eyes. My lips were a dark red and I could see my cheekbones, something I never noticed before, but it changed the shape of my face. My hair was slicked down with a couple little curls pasted down by my temples. If your ears were pierced, I'd lend you some earrings, Haley told me. But I am not going to try and do that. I haven't done that since high school and I don't want to try it again. Both girls stood beside me so we could see us together in the mirror. Thank you both. I felt amazing, though I didn't really understand why. Or maybe I did. Maybe that feminine part that needed to be heard, needed to be a real part of me, that I fought so hard to keep buried was finally breathing free. I turned and hugged Haley, then I turned and hugged Gina. Let's go refill our wine and get a picture. I know you said Sheila hoped to get one, but I want one as well. I'm sure we all do, Haley added. Our heels clicked along the hallway floor as we went back to the front of the house. I filled all the glasses as Gina got her phone ready for taking a picture and we got set up. Gina held her dress open to show one leg, we held our wine glasses and waited for the timer to finish and take the picture. We all agreed that it was a good one. Gina sent it on to Sheila and to us. We decided it was time to start dinner. We worked on dinner together, being very careful to not get anything on our clothes until we were finally able to sit down together and eat. During dinner a text came back from Sheila, "You all look fabulous. What a great job on Dan, knew he'd like the stockings, hot legs. I hope you all come back anytime for any of your dress needs. Thanks. I wonder if she thinks you have the best legs?" Haley asked. She didn't say anything at all about ours, Gina pointed out. Seriously? I asked. Are you really worried about that? I mean, she is just being supportive of me, I'm sure. Haley looked at Gina and they both started smiling. Okay, so you were just teasing me, fine. I tossed my napkin on the table. They both laughed. Gina. Haley got up. Why don't you take him and show him how to fix his lips and I'll clear the table. Nobody is doing dishes tonight, they can wait until morning but I'll get them rinsed off. I stood up and fluffed out my skirt because I could feel it sticking to my legs above the stockings. As I stepped around the table, Gina reached out and took my hand and led me back. She handed me the little paintbrush and a container with the color I was wearing, showed me how to coat the brush and put it on. As long as I took my time, it was pretty easy. Gina nodded her approval, and after fixing her own lips we went back. We ended up taking more pictures and talking for a while about the weekend and the plans for the next day. We decided we'd have lunch, clean up and head out. That would give us plenty of time to get home and be ready to start another work week. I think it is time, Gina announced. Time for what? I asked. Nightgowns, she added. Aren't you ready to get out of those shoes, out of that bra? I guess so, I admitted. I am just loving this dress so much. I hadn't noticed Haley had left the room. I did see her come back with a box. She handed it to me. What's this? We decided to get you a little something, Haley answered. Maybe help you feel a little more comfortable tonight, Gina added. Confused, I opened the box, separated the tissue, and found a black nightgown. I held it up. It had spaghetti straps, lace at the waist, and 2 lace panels in the skirt. Let's go get into our nightgowns, Gina suggested. Then we'll help you clean up your face. I walked back to my room and closed the door. I laid the nightgown on the bed and reached for the zipper. I realized I would either need to thread the shoelace back through or ask for help. I walked back out of the room and knocked on Gina's door. Yes, she called. Hey. I pushed the door open. She had already taken her dress off and was standing there in panties and a long-line strapless bra. Oh, sorry. I tried to duck back out. Well, too late now, next time wait for come in. She grabbed a shirt and pulled it on. What do you need? Well, I was hoping for a little zipper help, I answered a bit sheepishly. Turn, she commanded. I did, and she reached up and ran the zipper all the way down. Would you like me to undo your bra too? She asked. Please. I felt it tighten and then drop loose. Thanks. That looks like a pretty nice lingerie set from what I can see, she told me. Oh, yeah, I think it's nice. I tried to make light of it. Come to my room in about 2 minutes and you could catch me in my underwear. Tempting, Gina gave me a push out her door, but maybe another time. I went back and closed the door behind me. I slipped out of my dress and hung it back up. Bra came off, shoes, stockings. I pulled the garter belt out of the panties and then put on my new nightgown. I shivered as the sleek fabric slid down my hairless body. It felt so much better than the one I had gotten on the way here. I could see my thighs and shins through the lace panels in the skirt. I loved both these girls, they were so thoughtful. I walked back out and got more wine. The girls joined me wearing the same nightgowns as the night before. That was not disappointing. They took me to the bathroom and helped me clean off my face, then they washed my hair, getting all the gel out. It was getting late by the time they finished. Thank you both for everything you've done for me, I told them. We've subjected you to so much over these past couple days, Gina answered. Honestly, I expected you to just tell us no more and refuse, Haley added. I mean, saying you'd go dress shopping was one thing, but when it came down to actually getting the dress, I thought you'd balk. It is because of the two of you that I had the wherewithal to go through with it, and I am thrilled I did. I found something in me that I didn't know was there. I think this nightgown you got me is a way of saying you understand that as well. Gina stepped in and kissed me on the mouth. Not a big kiss, but more than friends, less than lovers. I felt warm all over. I'd say he liked that, Haley answered. Why do you it like that? Gina answered. Same way I can say you liked it, nipples don't lie, Haley giggled. I couldn't help myself. I immediately looked at her breasts and saw the imprint on her nightgown. I looked down at my own and saw my nipples were making their own impression. They seemed more prominent in this thin nightgown than the one I wore the night before. Oh, hell with it. Haley stepped forward and kissed me as well. It was good, nice, like before, more than friends, less than lovers. It caused the same reaction for us both, but there was something missing, something different than when Gina and I kissed. I thought back to the conversation of the night before. "So, are we going to bed?" I asked. "I'm not sure how to take that after kissing you," Gina stated. "I mean, like last night," I answered. "We can just all go to my bed, or you can decide to sleep in your own bed or start there and join me later if that is what suits you. No agenda, just like last night." "Okay, just want to be sure between the kiss and catching me in my underwear didn't lead you to thinking something else was up." "He caught you in your underwear? When did this happen?" Haley asked. "He needed help with the zipper on his dress. When he knocked, I said yes and he took it as come in. I had just gotten out of my dress. Another minute and I would have had less on. Anyway, I unzipped his dress, unhooked his bra and sent him back to his room." "You need to get your timing down," Haley joked. "Not at all," I answered. "I wouldn't want to catch either of you in a compromising state unless you were comfortable with it." "That's sweet," Haley answered. "Okay, I'm in bed with you." "Gina, you coming?" Gina answered. "I just wanted to be sure that even though some things are different, we aren't jumping over some steps." I led the way down the hall and went to the bed. I pulled back the covers, slipped toward the middle of the bed and pulled my nightgown in. Haley got in on my left, Gina on my right. We pulled the covers up and the girls settled in on my shoulders again. I was really liking this setup. I wished for more weekends like this. "That wasn't really the first time you've seen my underwear, was it?" Gina asked. "Heartbeat, I can already tell you his answer," Haley giggled. "I really like this, but there are some issues." I sighed. "Well, yes, that was the first time I've seen you in just your underwear, but no, it isn't the first time I've seen your underwear. I don't know if you realize it, but sometimes, at least around me, you aren't that careful in a dress." "Really?" she asked. "I am flashing you?" "Not all the time, just every once in a while. I've been there and you get so involved in your work that you just forget, and while I see those white panties you like. Today was the first time I've seen anything but white, but from what I saw they looked like the same kind." "Wow, you certainly have been paying attention to her underwear," Haley laughed. "You aren't a whole lot better about it," I told her. "You always wear thongs, and you have a whole collection of different colors and patterns. Most of the time your tops aren't that long, and when you lean over your desk the back of your pants gap and there they are," I told her. "Look, it isn't any big deal, in neither case do I see anything. If you had lacy panties like I was wearing, well, I would likely have known natural, trimmed, or bald before we got here." Gina actually slapped my stomach. But then she laughed. "Gina," I decided to press on. "Oh, now I hear his heartbeat," Gina answered. "I have a question for you, and I'm not sure how this weekend will affect your answer, but I'm curious about." "Oh, good grief, would you just ask her already?" Haley hissed. "Fine, Gina, I wanted to know if you might like to go out to dinner one evening after we get back." "Oh, well, I have to say this is a first on so many levels," she began. "It's the first time I've been asked out on a first date by a man in a nightgown while I am in bed with him with another woman. I don't know, Gina," Haley added. "I mean, if it works out, just how much more interesting could your life be? It might get boring and you'd be stuck. Are you suddenly trying to talk her out of it?" I cried. "Relax," Gina giggled. "Of course, I'll go to dinner with you. While you were buying your dress, we were talking, and Haley told me about your conversation about dating one of us. I wasn't sure if you were going to ask me since she said she made it clear she wasn't interested in that kind of a relationship with you, but I didn't know your feelings." "Honestly," I explained, "I was going back and forth about dating, yes or no, you or her. I'll say it now so there is no confusion about anything I say later. I love you both very much and would so anything for either of you. I think between the nightgowns and a picture taken earlier is some proof of that. But when we kissed earlier, they didn't feel the same. That is why I was comfortable asking you now. There wasn't anything wrong with either kiss, but I felt something just a little more with Gina. I know what you mean, Haley immediately jumped in. It was a nice kiss, but there was something missing that I should have felt. Well, I did, Gina answered. It wasn't that great a kiss, I mean it was nice but not a real, romantic type of kiss. But it still gave me a warm, fuzzy feeling and I knew I would say yes if you asked. I'm glad you did. I wiggled down into my pillow and gave the girls a squeeze. Good night, love you both. They each squeezed me as well. Nowhere I'd rather be, Haley answered. Same, love you both, wouldn't want anything different than it is right now, Gina finished. It didn't take long before I fell asleep. And I dreamed of the three of us walking through a mall, each wearing a spring dress. I woke the next morning alone in the bed. I crawled out and went to the kitchen. Both the other bedroom doors were open and it didn't appear the either bed had been slept in. I guess I was just the late riser this morning. I grabbed my muffin and some milk and headed out to the porch. Good morning. I walked past and took the glider. Morning, they both offered. Aren't you cold? That nightgown isn't that heavy, and it is pretty chilly. I'll be fine, I answered though I was a little chilled. I will probably go shower as soon as I finish my breakfast. You been up long? About an hour, Gina answered. I think Haley heard me because she got up just as I got out the bedroom door. Yeah, I think the bed moving when you got up woke me, Haley confirmed. I don't know how I didn't wake yesterday morning with Dan crawling out. So, we've been talking that we'd like to start planning another vacation, Gina explained. This time a real week away somewhere. It'll have to be a few months off before we can all take off, but that gives us time to decide where to go and all. Sounds like a plan, I answered. We could just get a one-bedroom place so long as it has a king bed. We talked about that some, Haley interjected. I think it will depend a lot on how your dating turns out. I like sleeping with you both, but I don't think I'd be interested in watching you two going at it. I laughed. You're right, we'll see, but I think we could probably control ourselves for a while. I got up and went inside. I realized they had already done the dishes from the night before. I washed out my glass, dried it and put it away. Then I went and gathered my things for the shower. Once I finished, I decided to start packing my things. I hardly thought anything odd of folding the panties and nightgowns and storing them in my suitcase. I had saved the bag that my dress came in and pulled it back over it and took everything out to the main room. Gina came back in at that point and looked at my things. It's getting to be that time, huh? I'm afraid so. I shrugged. Okay, I'll get ready. She actually stopped and gave me a kiss before heading down the hall. Haley came in. You did great, I'm proud of you. You made us both feel special and I know you two are going to be great together. She came and wrapped her arms around me. One day I hope I find someone as special as you are to me now. I'm certain you will. I held her tight. I want you to find the happiness I know you deserve. I'm going to go start packing so I'll be ready to get in the shower when Gina finishes. She let go of me and I released her. It has been too short a weekend, but it still seems odd to see you in short and a t-shirt. Amazing how fast I got used to you in a nightgown and a dress. We'll get that vacation planned, I told her. I assume the plan will include nightgowns again? Oh, yes, and dress shopping and dresses. She started down the hall. Maybe we can do red this time. She disappeared. I pulled up in front of my house and got my things from the trunk. Gina walked around the back and we kissed again. I walked back to the passenger side as Gina got in to drive. I'll see you both at work tomorrow. I leaned in and gave Haley a kiss. If either or both of you wear dresses tomorrow, it would just make my day. I'll treat you to lunch if you do. They both laughed, said bye and Gina drove off. I went in and unpacked, which meant most things went in the laundry. I checked the dress over. I hadn't worn it that long, so I thought maybe I could wear it again before sending it to the dry cleaners. I started to look for something to eat and realized that I really wanted to put on a nightgown and relax. I checked the labels and put on a load of laundry. In a couple hours I could be doing what I wanted. I just wished I still had the girls with me.